The November wind was already stripping the last yellow leaves from the trees of Pasadena when I realized that my 9-year marriage was one big illusion. Cheating stories always seem like something distant until they become your reality. And when your cheating wife sits across from you at breakfast and smiles so naturally, as if nothing happened, it evokes a mixture of disgust and admiration for her acting skills. Because my cheating wife Melinda turned out to be a true master of lies. It all started with a small detail, a bare hand. Melinda and I met 10 years ago at a cafe on Colorado Boulevard. She had just divorced her first husband and was trying to start with a clean slate. I worked as a salesperson in an electronics store. She had just gotten a job as an HR manager at a mid-size IT company. Our first dates were simple: movies, walks, conversations until dawn. A year later, we got married. 2 years after that, our son Matthew was born, and 4 years later, our daughter Valerie. Melinda always said she didn't want to repeat the mistakes of her parents, who divorced when she was 8. I also grew up in a family where my father and mother constantly argued, and I swore to myself I would never become that kind of father. The irony of fate, right? We tried so hard to create the perfect family that we didn't notice how it began to crumble from within. That Tuesday in early October, Melinda came home late. Nothing unusual. In autumn, she always had a lot of work recruiting personnel for the fourth quarter. She kissed me on the cheek, petted our Caucasian shepherd Chelsea, who was spinning joyfully around her legs, and went to take shower. I sat on the couch with my laptop, reviewing sales statistics. And then I noticed her left hand was completely bare. The ring was gone. "Mel, where's your ring?" I asked when she came out of the bathroom. She froze for a moment, but quickly pulled herself together. "Oh, I took it off at the office. My hands were swollen from the heat. Must have forgotten to put back on. I'll bring it tomorrow." A simple explanation. Logical. But something in her voice, some barely noticeable note, made me wary. The next day, the ring was back in place. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. But a week later, the situation repeated itself. And again, the same explanation about swollen hands. In October, in Pasadena, where the temperature barely reached 20 degrees Celsius. I started watching more carefully. Melinda began staying late at work more often. Twice a week, she went on client meetings. This was normal for an HR manager who worked with different companies. But before, she always told me the details, who she met with, what they discussed, what vacancies. Now her answers became generic. Everything's fine, just work stuff, nothing interesting. Chelsea, our shepherd, also started behaving strangely. She always greeted Melinda joyfully, but lately the dog seemed to hesitate, sniffed for a long time, before running up. Animals sense things we don't notice. If you think you already know how this story will end, you're wrong. Because the most interesting part was just beginning. On November 2nd, Melinda said she was going to Santa Barbara for 2 days, a corporate training on a new personnel management system. I helped her pack her suitcase, kissed her goodbye. Matthew and Valerie waved to her from a window. A perfect picture of family happiness. That evening, I decided to check her computer. Melinda always left it at home when she went on business trips. She used her work laptop. I knew the password, Matthew's birthday. My hands were trembling when I opened the browser history. At first, nothing suspicious, work sites, news, online stores. But then, I found a bookmark on Airbnb. Apartment bookings in Pasadena. At an address I didn't recognize. The dates didn't match her business trips. The last booking for yesterday, when she supposedly worked late. My breath caught. I opened her email. She used the same password for everything. That's where I found the correspondence. Not very romantic, to be honest. More like business emails about meeting logistics. The name, David. Profession, auditor. He was her client. Melinda recruited financial accounting specialists for his company. The most interesting part was in the details. David was married, had 2 children, and judging by the emails, he and Melinda had been meeting for over a year. A year. While I was working, raising our children, walking the dog, and planning our family vacation, my wife was building a parallel life. But the biggest shock awaited me in the finances folder. Melinda had opened a separate bank account that I didn't know about. She systematically transferred money there from our joint account, small amounts that I didn't notice. Over the year, it had accumulated into a substantial sum. In correspondence with David, they discussed a shared future and financial cushion for a start. So this wasn't just a fleeting infatuation. This was a plan. A well-thought-out, methodical plan. I sat at the computer until morning, reading their correspondence. Some things were so intimate that I felt physically ill. but I forced myself to read everything. Knowing the truth, that was the least I deserved after 9 years of marriage. By the way, there was no Santa Barbara. She was renting apartments on Lake Avenue, 15 minutes drive from our apartment. The audacity was stunning. On the third day, Melinda returned, smiling and relaxed. She told me about the useful training and new acquaintances. I listened, nodded, smiled. I held Valerie on my lap and thought, how can a person lie so easily looking into their children's eyes? That evening was a theater of the absurd. We had dinner together, discussed Matthew's school matters, plans for the weekend. Chelsea lay under the table, occasionally glancing at Melinda with a peculiar expression. I petted the dog and thought, at least someone in this house remains honest. The next morning, when the kids went to school and Melinda was getting ready for work, I stopped her at the door. We need to talk. Now. I'll be late. About David. Her face changed instantly. I had never known that a person could turn so pale in a second. Who told you? Your computer is very talkative, I answered calmly. Especially when the password is our son's birthday. She sank onto the couch. Chelsea came over and sat next to me. A faithful dog always knows who the real master is. Eric, I can explain everything. A year, Melinda. A whole year. And you are also withdrawing our money into a separate account. This isn't just cheating, it's preparation for escape. What happened next exceeded all my expectations. Melinda didn't deny it, didn't cry, didn't ask for forgiveness. She just confessed, coldly and rationally, as if reporting on a completed project. Yes, she had been seeing David for over a year. Yes, she had fallen in love with him. Yes, she was planning to leave. No, she had never truly loved me. I was a safe choice after her unsuccessful first marriage. David understood her, shared her ambitions, saw in her not just a mother and wife, but a personality. What about the kids? I asked. The kids will adapt. An honest divorce is better than living a lie. The irony of the situation was that she was right. But for some reason, this truth hurt the most. But if you think the story will end with a standard divorce and division of property, hold on tight. The next few days we lived in the same apartment, but in parallel universes. Melinda slept on the living room couch. I tried to stay calm for the children's sake, but Matthew, a smart 10-year-old boy, still sensed that something was wrong. Dad, why is Mom crying at night? He asked one morning. Adult problem, son. Everything will be okay soon. A lie for the sake of peace. I had become just like her. Meanwhile, I started preparing. I made copies of all the correspondence, bank statements, evidence of money transfers. My friend Kevin, who worked as a lawyer, recommended a good attorney. Melinda wasn't sitting idle either. She hired her own lawyer and started her offensive. The divorce promised to be complicated. We had an apartment, a car, joint savings, those she hadn't managed to transfer. And most importantly, 2 children. But the real blow came a week later. David called me. Personally. Eric, this is David. I think we should meet and talk like adults. The audacity of this guy knew no bounds. But I agreed. I wanted to look into the eyes of the man who destroyed my family. We met at a cafe on Allen Avenue. David turned out to be unpleasantly ordinary, medium height, wearing glasses, with the soft voice of an auditor accustomed to working with numbers rather than people. I want you to know, we didn't plan for this to happen, he began. It just happened. A year ago. I clarified. And 32 times in the apartments on Lake Avenue? Yes, I counted the bookings. Very spontaneous. He flinched. I love Melinda. And she loves me. We want to be together. What about your wife? Your children? My wife already knows. We're getting divorced too. So this was a double betrayal. 2 families were falling apart simultaneously, so these 2 could build their happiness on the ruins. And what do you want from me? My blessing. I didn't hold back the sarcasm. I want you not to complicate the process. Melinda is entitled to half of your property by law, and she wants joint custody of the children. That's when I laughed. Really laughed, as if I'd heard the funniest joke of my life. Half the property? Of the property, part of which she already stole by transferring our joint money to a secret account? Oh, David, as an auditor, you should be more attentive to financial details. His face changed. What are you talking about? Melinda didn't tell you? She systematically stole from our family budget, preparing a safety cushion for your shared future. I have all the evidence. Bank statements, transfer dates. All of this will be in court. David paled. It seemed my honest wife forgot to mention this little detail to her lover. She said it was her personal savings from our joint account. Interesting math. I got up, leaving him sitting there with the expression of someone who had just realized they'd made a huge mistake. But the most interesting part started later. If you think revenge is just court battles, you're underestimating the creativity of a betrayed person. Through my friend Matthew, not my son, but a classmate from school who became a successful PR manager, I learned that David's company was preparing for a major audit before a merger with another firm. David was the lead auditor on the project. Any scandal could harm not only him, but the entire deal. I didn't do anything illegal. I just shared information about Melinda's financial manipulations with the appropriate people. Anonymously, of course. Copies of bank statements where David's name appeared in some transactions. They were planning a joint business after the divorce. The documents reached David's company management right before an important meeting. The result exceeded expectations. David was removed from the project, pending clarification of circumstances. His reputation as an honest auditor was shaken. The merger deal hung in the air. Melinda understood who was behind this. She burst into the apartment, by the way, where I stayed with the kids while the divorce process was ongoing, with burning eyes. "You destroyed his career," she screamed. "I just shared the truth," I answered calmly, petting Chelsea, who was growling warily at Melinda. "You said it yourself. Honesty is better than living a lie. You don't understand. He's being accused of complicity in the financial operations. Technically, he was complicit. You were planning a joint business with stolen money. I just helped his employers find out about it in advance." Melinda tried to threaten, manipulate, even beg. But times had changed. I was no longer the naive husband who believed in fairy tales about eternal love. The divorce process lasted 3 months. Difficult, exhausting months of court sessions, meetings with lawyers, conversations with psychologists about the best interests of the children. Matthew and Valerie lived with me, visiting Melinda on weekends. The kids adapted better than I expected. Perhaps the absence of constant tension at home was even good for them. The court took Melinda's financial manipulations into account. Half of the stolen money I had to give her by law, jointly acquired property. But the judges also took the circumstances into account and awarded me a larger share of other assets. The apartment remained mine. That's where the children lived. Melinda got the car and part of the savings. Custody was joint, but the kids lived with me. They could see their mother whenever they wanted, but they chose the stability I provided them. David tried to return to his profession, but the reputational losses did their damage. He was hired by a smaller company in a less prestigious position. His own divorce also ended. His wife took the kids and moved to her parents in San Diego. Melinda and David stayed together. They found a small apartment in a not-so-great neighborhood of Pasadena. Their shared future looked much more modest than they had planned. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you. I will continue the story. The most amazing part came 6 months after the divorce. Valentine's Day, February. I was picking up Matthew and Valerie after a visit to their mother. Melinda came out to talk to me. "Eric, I made a mistake," she began quietly. "I was waiting for this." The classic scenario, the lover turned out not to be so ideal when you have to share bills and household chores. David isn't what I thought he was. He blames me for his professional problems. Says I ruined his life. The irony was so obvious that I didn't even comment. The kids miss a real family. Matthew asked if we couldn't try again. That's when the twist occurred that no one expected. Not even me. "You're right," I said. "The kids miss a real family. Honesty. A sense of security. And I give them that. You and we're not a family, Melinda. We never were, if we believe your own words. I was a safe choice, remember? I was angry. I didn't mean it that way." "No, you meant exactly that. And you know what? I'm grateful to you. You showed me that I deserve something better than life with someone who just tolerates me. So you won't forgive me." I looked at her, at the woman with whom I had lived for 9 years, raised 2 children, planned the future. And I felt nothing. No anger, no pain, not even pity. "Melinda, forgiveness isn't about returning to the past. It's about letting it go. I forgive you. But that doesn't mean I'm ready to let you back into my life." She cried. Real bitter tears. "What about the kids? They need a complete family. They need happy parents. Separately or together, it doesn't matter. You can be a good mother to them without being my wife. Actually, maybe it's even better that way. But the story had one more unexpected ending. A month later, Melinda appeared again, but this time with news. She was divorcing David. Their relationship couldn't withstand the test of reality. David blamed her for all his problems. She couldn't forgive him for his weakness and loss of status. What seemed like great love turned out to be just an escape from routine. I understand that you won't take me back, she said. But I want to try to be a better mother. A better person. Can we start over? Not as a couple. Just as parents who respect each other. I looked at her for a long time, and carefully. Then I looked at Matthew and Valerie, who were playing with Chelsea in the room. They were laughing really carefree. Like they hadn't laughed in the last year of our married life with Melinda. We can try, I finally said. But with conditions. Complete transparency. Honesty. And no attempts to restore the family. We're co-parents. Nothing more. She nodded, wiping away tears. The following months were strange. Melinda really tried to change. She regularly saw the kids, didn't miss school events, even found a new job at another company without clients named David. She and I learned to communicate without mutual recriminations and resentments. One Saturday, Matthew asked, "Dad, will you and Mom be together again?" "No, son. We won't be a couple. But we'll be a family, just a different family. Where Mom and Dad live separately but both love you. Like my friend Kevin? He has it that way too." "Yes, like Kevin." "Okay. The main thing is that you don't yell at each other like before, and that we can see Mom whenever we want. Children understand more than we think." A year after the divorce, I accidentally ran into David on the street. He looked ordinary, not broken, not destroyed. Just an ordinary person shopping at the supermarket. "Eric," he nodded awkwardly. "David," I answered neutrally. We stood in uncomfortable silence. "I wanted to apologize," he finally said. "For everything." "Apology accepted, but it doesn't change anything." "I know. I just wanted to have a clear conscience." He left, and I watched him go. I didn't feel triumph. Didn't feel satisfaction from his problems. Just indifference. Today, 2 years after that November night when I found the correspondence on Melinda's computer, I can say, we didn't get back together. Melinda lives separately, sees the kids, we celebrate their birthdays and school holidays together. She never mentioned restoring the relationship again. Neither did I. Matthew and Valerie grew up in an atmosphere of honesty. Not a perfect family with 2 parents under one roof, but a family where everyone tells the truth and respects each other. They know our story, a version adapted to their age. They know that Mom made a mistake and Dad forgave her. That people can divorce but remain normal parents. Chelsea still lives with me, a faithful dog who survived all the family dramas and remained unchanged in her devotion. Sometimes I think, could everything have ended differently? Maybe. But then it would be a different story. Different people. Different decisions. Cheating stories don't always end in catastrophe. Sometimes they just end in life. Complicated, imperfect, but honest life. Where people make mistakes, pay for them, learn, and move on. Did Melinda stay with David? No. She remained alone, trying to build a new life and relationship with the kids. David also lives alone, works at a modest position, sees his kids once every 2 weeks. And me? I sell electronics, raise kids, walk the dog, and don't look for new relationships. Maybe someday, but not now. For now, what I have is enough: honesty, peace, and the certainty that tomorrow won't bring another lie. And you know what? It's not a bad feeling. Much better than 9 years of illusion. The apartment we once shared as a family home has become my sanctuary with the kids. Every corner holds memories, some painful, some beautiful. The kitchen where Melinda and I used to cook Sunday dinners together now echoes with just me and the children's laughter as we attempt new recipes, often failing spectacularly, but always having fun. Chelsea has her favorite spot by the window, where she watches the street with the vigilance of a guardian. She's aged gracefully over these 2 years, gray hairs appearing around her muzzle, but her loyalty never wavered. The kids say she protected us during the hardest times, and I believe them. Animals have an intuition about family bonds that humans often miss. Matthew, now 12, has become more serious, more thoughtful. He asks questions about relationships, about trust, about how to know when someone really loves you. I answer as honestly as I can, never sugarcoating the reality, but also never making him cynical about love. He deserves to believe in genuine connection, even if his parents couldn't make it work. Valerie, at 8, is more resilient than I gave her credit for. She adapted to the new normal with the flexibility of childhood. She has her room at my place and a smaller one at Melinda's apartment. She decorates both with the same drawings and stuffed animals, creating bridges between two homes. Sometimes she asks why we can't all live together, but she accepts the answer with grace beyond her years. The work at the electronics store became my refuge during the darkest days. My colleagues never pried, but they supported me with understanding nods and offers to cover shifts when I needed to handle lawyer meetings or pick up kids from school early. Kevin, my lawyer friend, became more than just professional help. He became someone I could talk to during late nights when sleep wouldn't come. I learned to cook properly, not just the basic meals I managed before. YouTube tutorials became my teachers, and the kids became my taste testers. We have Friday pizza nights where everyone chooses their own toppings and Sunday pancake mornings that have become sacred traditions. These small rituals create stability, give the kids something to count on. Melinda's transformation surprised me. I expected the classic pattern. The affair partner realizes their mistake, tries to come back, gets rejected, and disappears into bitterness. But she genuinely worked on herself. She started therapy, something she had always dismissed before. She became more present during her time with the kids, not just physically there, but emotionally engaged. During one of our co-parenting discussions over coffee, neutral territory, a Starbucks halfway between our homes, she told me something that gave me pause. David and I, she said, stirring her latte absently, we were both running from something. I was running from the fear of being ordinary, of being just another suburban mom and wife. He was running from the pressure of his perfect-looking marriage. We weren't running toward each other. We were just running. I didn't respond immediately. What could I say? That I understood. I didn't. That I forgave her. I had, but that didn't erase the betrayal. The kids are doing well, I finally said. That's what matters now. She nodded, and I saw tears she was fighting to control. I know I can't fix what I broke, but I want to be the mother they deserve. Even if I can't be the wife you deserved. That conversation marked a shift. We weren't enemies fighting over scraps. We were two people who once loved each other, failed at it, but were determined not to fail our children. The holidays were the hardest to navigate. That first Thanksgiving after the divorce, we tried having separate celebrations. Matthew spent the morning with Melinda, afternoon with me. Valerie did the opposite. Both kids were exhausted and sad by evening. The next year, we tried something different. We had Thanksgiving dinner together, me, Melinda, the kids, and Chelsea. It was awkward formal, but the kids' joy at having both parents at the table made it worthwhile. We established rules. No discussion of the past during family events, no bringing dates, though neither of us was dating, focus on the kids. It worked better than I expected. Melinda brought her famous sweet potato casserole. I handled the turkey, and we both pretended that the elephant in the room wasn't sitting at the head of the table. Christmas was similar. We opened presents together, the kids tearing through wrapping paper with abandon, while Melinda and I sat at opposite ends of the couch, maintaining polite distance. Chelsea got new toys and treats, and her tail-wagging enthusiasm reminded us all that some joys are simple and pure. I never asked Melinda about David after their breakup. It wasn't my business, and honestly, I didn't care. But Valerie mentioned once that Mom's friend David wasn't coming around anymore, and I gathered that their relationship had ended as messily as it began. Karma, some might say. I just called it consequences. My own life remained deliberately simple. A few friends suggested dating apps, blind dates, getting back out there. I declined. Not out of lingering pain over Melinda, but because I genuinely enjoyed my life as it was. Work, kids, dog, hobbies I'd neglected during the marriage, woodworking in the garage, reading mystery novels, weekend hikes with Matthew and Valerie. The kids became my priority in a way they couldn't be when I was trying to maintain a failing marriage. Every soccer game of Matthew's, every dance recital of Valerie's, I was there. Not out of obligation or competition with Melinda, but because I wanted to be. Their childhood was speeding by, and I refused to miss it while nursing wounds. One evening, about 18 months post-divorce, Matthew came to me with his phone, showing a text conversation with a girl from his class. "Dad, how do you know if someone is being honest with you?" he asked, his young face serious. My heart broke a little. Of course, he would worry about trust. Of course, our divorce had affected how he viewed relationships. "You can't ever know for sure," I told him honestly. "But you can pay attention to actions, not just words. Does what she says match what she does? Is she the same person when her friends are around as when it's just you two? Trust is built over time, not given all at once. He nodded thoughtfully. Like how you and Mom learned to trust each other again, but different than before? Exactly like that. These conversations with my kids taught me as much as I taught them. They forced me to articulate lessons I was still learning myself. Valerie's questions were different, more about feelings than logic. "Do you still love Mom?" she asked one night during our bedtime routine. "I love who she is to you, your mother," I answered carefully. "And I respect her for trying to be better. But the kind of love between grown-ups who are married? No, sweetheart. That's gone, and that's okay. Different kinds of love exist, and they're all valid." She thought about this, her small face scrunched in concentration. "Like how I love you and Mom differently, but I love you both." Exactly. Children's capacity to understand complex emotions never ceased to amaze me. The financial aspects of the divorce settled eventually. Melinda returned some of the money she'd transferred to the secret account, not because the court ordered it, but because she said she wanted to. I put it into college funds for the kids. The apartment remained mine, the car went to her, and we split the remaining savings. Neither of us walked away rich, but neither of us was destroyed financially. The real cost was emotional, and that ledger was harder to balance. But time, that cliché healer, did its work. The sharp pain dulled to a manageable ache, then to an occasional twinge, and finally to something I could look at with more curiosity than hurt. How did we get there? Where did it start to go wrong? Could anything have changed the outcome? I concluded that some relationships have expiration dates, and ours had passed. We'd married young, me trying to escape a dysfunctional childhood, her trying to prove her first divorce wasn't her fault. We built a life on shaky foundations and were surprised when it crumbled. The betrayal was Melinda's choice, but the marriage's failure was mutual. Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new, interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.